around 3 p.m., we stood on the deck of our house on Lewis Smith Lake in Walker County and watched the funnel cloud of the first EF4 tornado form over Coleman County. That would be the first of 71 tornadoes to unleash their fury on Alabama that day, leaving behind them a widespread path of destruction and devastation. One storm in particular, though, would have a profound impact on my life and would change my attitude towards storms forever. This EF4 tornado would form in Pickens County and travel northeast through Tuscaloosa County and into Fayette County, where it all but destroyed the rural communities of Bowling Springs and Flatwoods. It would then continue into Walker County, plowing through downtown Cordova, leaving a 1/2 mile path of destruction in its wake. The twister would travel 123 miles before finally dissipating in Marshall County. Once all the storms had passed and the threat was over, I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. We, along with over 400,000 other people in Alabama, had lost power, and we had no phone service of any kind, but I considered those minor inconveniences compared to what so many other people were going through all around us. It wasn't until the next day, though, that I realized just how close to home the storms had come. My husband Charles and I had to drive 15 miles into Jasper to pick up a working phone signal, but we would end up driving over 40 miles to Winfield before finding an open gas station with working pumps. Cars were lined up down the road as far as I could see, but we needed gas if we were going to keep our generator running. It was during our 2-hour wait in the gas line that I received the heartbreaking news in the form of a voicemail from my mom. I already knew to some extent about the damage to Cordova, the town where my dad was raised. But I wasn't aware that the same tornado had destroyed Flatwoods, the town my mom grew up in. Cordova was hit by 2 tornadoes on April 27th. The first EF3 hit at 5 a.m., devastating the historic downtown buildings along Main Street. "12 hours later, the more powerful EF4 tornado destroyed most of the rest of the town and much of the surrounding residential area. 90% of the town's infrastructure was destroyed. Including the city hall, the police station, and the town clinic. The steeple was ripped away from the historic, century-old, Long Memorial Methodist Church. And the long mansion that was built by the town's founder in 1885 is now without a roof. I remember riding in the back seat of the car as it drove through the rolling hills of Cordova, my cousin Leanne sitting beside me. We would watch through the window as the car rolled past the old brick buildings. The town always seemed to have a certain charm to it. It looked almost the same on April 26th, the day before the tornadoes hit, as it did in 1960. The large Blue Devil murals plastered all over town made it clear that this was a town that was very proud of its high school football team. Cordova, home of the Blue Devils. My cousin and I would make up games to pass the time, yelling out, "My house," when we saw a house we liked, or "My house to haunt," when we saw one that looked old and run down. I remember going to visit my granny's sister Margie, my great aunt, who lived on the edge of town. Her old house is still intact, but just a few yards away the houses have been moved off their foundations or had their shingles ripped off. What are the odds of one tornado wiping out both of my parents' hometowns that lie at least 30 miles apart? 1 in 1,000? A million? Nevertheless, it happened. Within minutes, both sides of my family's roots were ripped from the ground that they had grown in for so many years. Fortunately, the house my dad grew up in, and where we spent many fun-filled days playing as kids, escaped the path of the storm. But that was not the case for my mom's childhood home. There is nothing left of the house that saw 6 kids nurtured lovingly into adulthood, and 13 grandchildren grow up to have kids of their own, but the brick porch, some foundation blocks, and the memories. We used to come here on Sundays when I was a child. The vision of my Papa Brown sitting on that porch in his faded Liberty overalls, leaning forward with his elbows rested on his knees, and watching his grandchildren play in the yard that consisted mostly of hard-packed dirt and gravel, is forever ingrained in my mind. I can see my granny sitting beside him in her homemade dress, with her long, dark hair put up in a bun. She was always working, shelling peas, stringing beans, or shucking corn that she grew in her garden at the bottom of the hill. My mom takes after her. There was always at least one hound dog to pester, and numerous chickens to chase. There never failed to be a leftover biscuit or two in the pantry, just perfect for keeping a hungry grandchild satisfied till mealtime. At mealtime, Papa used to say, "Eat up, it'll put hair on your chest." We just nodded and kept shoveling the food in our mouths. I never had a reason to complain about Granny's cooking. Thank goodness my mom takes after her in that respect too.
It had a cement slab for the front door. It had we called it a pantry on outside the kitchen. It had a screened-in porch. Yeah, there was a cement slab for the floor there, and it had a place you could go in under there.
And this was a back porch. We used to have a little crawl space under here we called the cellar, and that right there was on top of that. It's over there now, but it was right here, and that's the steps that went down to the back.
I would never go in there because I thought if it come a storm, if that cement slab got loose, it'd come down and crush us.
That's exactly what happened. That's it, Mama. That's what's left.
My cousin Dwight owns the house now. Thankfully, he was not home at the time of the storm. His brother David had been staying there along with his wife Stephanie and their 2 sons Tyler and Katie. They had just begun the process of moving out, and almost everything that they owned was still in the house when it was destroyed. My Uncle Gerald and Aunt Teresa lived in a mobile home at the bottom of the hill where my granny's garden used to be. They were leaving to take cover in the community storm shelter when the twister overtook them in their truck. They were alive, but seriously injured. Everything they had is gone, and they just barely escaped with their lives. Hey Gerald, it's good to see you.
Yeah, I'm glad you got to see me.
I know.
The truck over. That's what me and Teresa rode out in. Of course, we got thrown out somewhere in the mix.
This is just terrible. I've never seen anything. I've never seen anything like this in my life.
That's that big tree. I think it was between your house and Gerald's trailer.
And Lynn said he had been trying to get Gerald to cut it down or something because he's afraid it'd fall on their trailer. Well, he said there's the only thing around there standing.
And then I seen trees start falling and flying. I don't remember much out of that. But nothing never shook or nothing. And I thought, well, we'll be out there in the truck like we usually do, and out from under these trees and ride this now too. Well, we rode it out all right. I don't know how far we made it. Like I say, when I come to, I was over yonder, close to where the truck was, and I found her laying right there. Must have pulled her out first.
You said when you come to, you started looking for Teresa.
That's all I had on my mind. I got to find Teresa.
Right now I'm headed to UAB hospital to see my Aunt Teresa. She's been in the hospital almost 3 weeks. It'll be 3 weeks Wednesday. She was injured in the tornado, and I'm not sure when she's going to be getting out. Just want to ask you, what you can remember about what happened.
We got in the truck, and I was holding on to my 2 little dogs. And Joe was telling me to put the seatbelt on, but I didn't. I'm glad I didn't now.
Went down time.
And it was too late, and all of a sudden it was just like
Flipping.
started flipping, and I find myself laying on the ground, blood all over my arm. And he asked me if I could move, and I said I can't move.
I told her just be still. I was going to the neighbors to get some help. I did. And they brought the tractor up there. I was pushing trees out of the way so we could get to the ambulance as fast as we could. That's where you lost all that blood. I think when you slung her out of the trucks, when it stripped all the muscle and all off her arm. Yeah.
All the skin was off my arm. And I had a broke arm, a skint arm with stitches, and I had a gout back here, cuts back here, and
All over your body.
all over my body, and
Covered in mud.
covered in mud.
By the time I got to the neighbor's house, it was sinking in, soaking in, and I realized I couldn't hardly walk. So I got a ride with one of the neighbors back up to their house and just sat there. They put Teresa on that mattress and put me in the front bucket. Went around through the pasture and got closer to the ambulance. And I couldn't tell you how much time passed, but I know it must have been a long time. They put her on the ambulance and took her out of there immediately. And they just put me in there, and then they loaded up this other girl and got us fed, and then they put me and her both on the ambulance and brought us over here, UAB.
I never been so scared all my life.
I can't even imagine.
And I lost so much blood.
Well, I'm glad you're still here.
Yeah. And a friend of ours, Sylvia and Leon Spurl, they got killed, and they found one leg of hers, and they found,
that.
yeah.
That's hard.
2 miles away, in Bowley Springs, lies the remains of the house where my great-grandma and Grandpa Brown spent their later years. The house was once filled with numerous old family photos and heirlooms from years past. This photo montage, which was my contribution from the reunion of 2000, was found out where the old barn used to be. This photo of my great-grandpa Samuel Wilson Brown, was found over 130 miles away in Flat Rock, Alabama. The Brown family gathered here on Mother's Day every year since before I can remember for the family reunion. This past Mother's Day, the Sunday after the tragic events of April 27th, was the first time in living memory that the reunion was not held. There was no gathering of family members under the big shady oak trees, watching the children run and play on the large grassy lawn while they sat with full bellies and recounted old times. No games of bingo with prizes to be handed out to the lucky winners, and no contest to see who could guess how much money was in the big jar of change that had been saved all year just for this occasion. This is not the end, though, but the beginning of a new era. Next year, the house will be rebuilt, the change jar will be twice as full, and the sounds of laughter and children playing will once again radiate from the place we all refer to as Grandpa Brown's place. The journey that I've taken as I revisited the places that I once knew so well, but now seem like strange and foreign lands, has been shocking and heartbreaking. When I look upon these splintered houses and piles of rubble that used to be people's lives, I can't help but think about the people that survived the horrific events of April 27th, who are now trying to pick up the scattered pieces of their shattered lives and move on, somehow. I can't help but to mourn the loss of the 238 Alabamians who did not survive, and feel the utmost sympathy for the family members that they left behind. For these families, nothing will ever be the same again. Houses will be rebuilt, and businesses will once again open their doors. But the people will be forever changed by the memories that live on inside them. I too am forever changed. The tragic events of April 27th have made me realize just how important my family truly is to me, and how lucky I am to have them in my life. I haven't always felt like I had much in common with many of my family members outside my immediate family. I never took the time to get to know most of them as well as I would like. We're all different, but it is these differences that make us individuals. And despite these differences, we all still have one thing in common. The same blood runs through our veins. Our branches may spread far and wide, but our roots all grow from the same soil.
I ain't asking nobody for nothing. If I can't get it on my own. You don't like the way I'm living, just leave us alone.
This is going to be on the internet tomorrow.